This episode of Dispatches from Planet Albany is brought to you with support by New York State United Teachers, which represents more than 600,000 educators and school-related professionals in New York. Dispatches is also supported by the public affairs firm O'Donnell and Associates. For more information, check out o'donnellsolutions.com.
Messed with the poll site. I don't want to get sued. Those poll machine companies
Yeah,
are real big.
Dominion is very litigious.
I've also declared war on potholes, so here's the first shot across the bow.
Well, as you know, with Planet Albany, there's always something that makes the planet turn.
And it's this amazing view of D.C., and Eddie Vedder comes out, and he goes, "You have a cigarette?" And I've never smoked in my life, but if I had, I wish that was the moment.
And this strategy takes us from potholes to knotholes.
I would like to say it was a pleasure, Mr. Kim. But I'm on the road.
I'm David Lombardo, and this is Dispatches from Planet Albany, a WCNY podcast about power and politics in New York State government and politics. And on this episode, we're reading tea leaves and clues left around the Capitol recently. And to help me make meaningful inferences, we're joined by Shontell Plummer, head of the New York practice.
Do people not make meaningful inferences sometimes when they're
Well, we'll judge that in a second, but let me finish your title, where you're the head of the New York practice for Tusk Strategies, where she is also a partner.
Thank you.
Always jumping the gun on me. Always jumping on the gun. So, just so we can get into conspiracy theories, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on.
Oh, because now that I don't have a sty, you want to go through with the costume. Interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because,
weird flag.
We're going to take some leaps and bounds, and maybe some of them aren't necessarily grounded in reality, because sometimes reporters don't always do a good job reading the tea leaves. And I want to start with something that maybe you saw, and this is something that caught my attention, which was the administration accidentally looped in a reporter, maybe multiple reporters, on
the press. I think it was the press release distribution list.
Except not everybody in the LCA got this press release.
Maybe not everybody's on the press release distribution list.
So we'll get into that. But so this, for listeners who aren't familiar, we're talking about an email that went out that basically spelled out how the director of state operations feels about changes to the state's bottle bill law. And the argument from the administration, something that Ken Lovett reaffirmed to me, and I have no reason not to believe him when he says this, is that it just went out to an old list that they don't use anymore. But my conspiracy brain, my lizard brain, says, okay, this was them trying to send a message to the bottle redemption centers who have given them a hard time. So you don't take it as something more complicated than that?
No, I think people accidentally do listservs all the time. So when you work in government, you have all these different listservs.
Sure.
You have, like, I know at the Senate, I had like chief of staff listserv, like members personal, like you have all these different listservs. You know how easy it is to type the wrong thing? Well, I don't do it now in the private sector, but in public sector, oh my God.
I get sent things to Dave Lombardo that people don't mean to send to me. I still get put onto text message threads that people don't mean to send me on.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
I'm notorious for talking shit about someone and then inadvertently put them in the text thread. So I don't think they're trying to send the message. And I think the administration has been clear they're not interested in the bottle bill,
right,
that they have issues with it because it's taken how many, this has been something I remember when I was working. What was that? When did I leave? 2021?
2022 was your last year.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Okay. 2021, I bought my house. I remember my last year. I remember it was budget and we were trying to figure out bottle bill and the administration was like, nah. So I don't think, and one thing I know about the lovely director of state operations, she does not hide how she feels. She is not someone to shy away. And if she opposes it, she opposes it. Like, she's not going to, she's a director of state operations.
In your experience in government, or maybe now on the outside, have you ever tried to subtly send a message to anyone?
There's nothing subtle about me. So anybody knows, I don't do passive aggressive. I do full blown aggressive. So there was never a situation where I was like, oh, let me subtly send something to send a message. Now, I think those who do not have a temperament similar to myself, or I would say the director of operations, to be honest, anybody in power, because anybody in terms of a staffer that's in power in government, you're not meek. There's no way someone becomes a director of state operations meek. So I don't think they would subtly send things. I've spoken to Catherine Garcia many times when I was here. She's gonna pick up the phone and tell you. And like the lobbyists that deal with the bottle bill knows how she feels and how the administration feels. They know the issues that are with the bill. It's just up to them to figure out a pathway.
Well, let's turn to some other tea leaves that people have been trying to read, and that has to do with tax increases, one of your
Woo!
favorite topics. And now that
Woo!
you're on the outside and we're coming for your money here in Albany.
Well, you're not coming for my money because
You're
it's
right.
corporate tax. It's
Sure.
corporate tax. It's my money. You may come for. Anyways, continue.
Well, there's been discussion about both the income taxes and the corporate taxes, and starting with the personal income tax conversation, the governor, during a gaggle, basically said that there's so much volatility in Washington that we don't know how much money we're going to get, and there was some speculation that that was going to be an opening on the personal income tax hike conversation, because normally when we're talking about volatility, it's this idea that increasing PIT will prompt people to leave. On the corporate tax side of things, we actually spoke with the state budget director, Blake Washington, on this show, and two things stood out to me. One, he was not vociferously making the argument that changes in terms of an increase would drive out businesses, but also he didn't go out of his way to refute this idea that the corporate taxes are particularly low in New York. He didn't bring up the idea that if you look at the state corporate rate plus what you have to pay in terms of taxes in New York City, that it's actually higher than surrounding states like New Jersey. So are those morsels that we should be feasting on to try to understand what's going to happen next? Or am I and some of my colleagues grasping at straws here?
I don't think the corporate tax argument of the past, where like, hey, corporations are going to leave, works. Some would say under the recent mayoral race, there's this a renewed energy. Like, I think people want to tax the rich. I think people we need money. No matter how great the gross receipts were in New York, we're still going to have a hole next year. I don't know the exact number, but it's my understanding next budget, we're going to have a hole that we need to fill.
Yeah, they're looking at $4 billion, but that also assumes that they let the current surcharge on corporate taxes expire, which they likely would never do, and that saves you about $1.5 billion. So it's really a $2.5 billion hole.
$2.5 billion. When was the last time that the state legislature had a $1 billion hole with no future way of filling it? Last time was like during COVID.
Well,
And I
there's
think
holes and then there's holes.
$2 billion of holes, like real hole, like 2 billion real hole. When was the last?
I don't know how real it is, because that $4 billion number is not real.
Look, there's going to be a hole, whatever it is. I think the legislature is not used to cutting.
Right.
Point blank period. Like this is like I remember when I started in government, like in 2010 and 2009, like the MTA failed. It was a recession. We had to do DRPs. We had to come back in. It was a shit show. I don't think this new legislature is used to cutting. I think maybe DOB is using inflated, maybe, I don't know, but maybe they're using inflated numbers to scare the masses, to try to like tamper everybody, to be like, hey, whoa, 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 we can't do all these things. Like I can't fund universal child care, free buses, all the things, I can't do everything. So maybe that's the argument they're using. But there's going to be they're going to continue the corporate tax. Now, the question is, are they going to increase it? If you don't want to increase the PIT, which is the personal income tax, because you're afraid that rich people are going to flee, an argument that, like, I don't know, it used to be made, but I don't know. The people that go to Florida, they realize it sucks. Now they're coming back to New York. So it does suck. Like around DeSantis, I don't want to live in Florida. But anyways, no matter what, I think taxation is on the table. You can't have a mayor that won the way that he did, well, soon to be mayor, with a mandate. He has things that he wants to do. If you're trying to afford real affordable childcare, that costs significant amount of money. I think Governor Hochul's first or second year, she did childcare. She made steps and leaps towards like trying to do a pathway to universal, but it costs a lot of money. So if you really want to do the type of childcare that everyone's talking about, that's going to cost a significant amount of money. I don't see how where the money comes from if you don't tax.
So a conspiracy being advanced largely from the right is that the governor is going to be dragged into these tax increases, that she doesn't want to do it, but it's because she's afraid of the forces that New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani can rally, that she is going to be wedged into doing this. I don't think that's the case because her primary opponent is not Zohran Mamdani. Her primary opponent is Antonio Delgado, who I don't see pulling off the same type of upset. So what do you think about this idea that she is going to be sort of forced into doing something on taxes that she doesn't want to do?
Look, I think you have a mayor that wants to do a mayor-elect that wants to do it, but you also have legislative leaders that want it. The speaker has been very clear, and I think even the majority leader. I mean, they were both at the rally, the Get Out the Vote rally for Zoran. I'm sorry, Mayor Mamdani, because I don't want to. I got in trouble because I referred to someone by their first name and they were elected, and they told me not to do that. So I am trying to bring peace and love and always say people's official
He's
title.
kind of like Cher, though. I think Zoran's okay. Madonna,
Beyonce,
Gronk,
MJ.
LeBron.
Okay, but anyways, I don't know if it's going to be drag kicking and screaming. I think that the governor is smart enough to find a nuanced way to make sure everyone achieves the goal that they're trying to do it. So if you're trying to do universal health care and that's one of your goals, and you think that you have to tax the rich in order to receive it, whether corporate, PIT, whatever, she will find a way to fill that money so you can do what you need to do. This is a tale as old as time. I'm talking out of school because I'm talking under a previous administration. The difference between Governor Hochul and Governor Cuomo is like we would go in, you would get this budget, and it'd be like, oh, such dire times. We have no money. Da, da, da. And then during the course of negotiations, all of a sudden, like money was just popping out. Like last day, it was like, oh, I got like half a billion. I got 750 million. You're like, well, where's this? I thought we were poor. Like, what? Where's the money? I remember my first budget with Governor Hochul. She was like, I'm not playing any games. And she was like, this is our financial situation. This is where we are with money. And, the House has pushed for more. But she was like, I'm not doing like what other people did, where like it was like, oh, I kind of have money. Like she was like, she respected it. She was like, this is what I got. Make it work. And then leadership figures out and they discuss and they get to a place. I think the governor is going to find a way to get to a place to achieve the goals. Maybe it's like a slight increase of the corporate tax. I do think it's going to be some type of increase. And maybe they're going to do some new surcharge. Oh, people love doing surcharges. They'll find I think there was like an internet tax surcharge or like a gaming. There have been different surcharges that have been discussed that bring a sufficient amount of money. There's different loopholes that you could close to bring additional state funds. I think Blake is good. He's going to research and he's going to do it. And then that's how she'll be able to achieve it. It will just be interesting to see. I don't think she'll be dragged and kicked. She's tough. Like she'll be like, don't bother me because if you push me, I'm not. She said that so much. She was like basically, don't antagonize me. I'm with the shits. Like I'm rocking with unhinged Hochul right now. This is who I think she needs to be. It's not that she's unhinged, but she's just like not with the shits. Like she was on some interview and they were talking about Lisa Stefanik and she's full of shit.
See, that seemed coordinated to me. That seemed like she was like, I'm going to swear.
No. If you know Hochul, like she's from Buffalo. Like, how Buffalo people
Sure.
They're not like when she lets herself loose.
That resonated with you. It felt genuine. Okay.
and I've been in rooms with her where like I know I'm not saying like she's in like leaders meeting cussing up a storm or anything like that. I think she tries to be, very like, but I think like that little chick from Buffalo, I think she got a potty mouth. I think she drinks beer and I fuck with it. Like, oops, I'm not supposed to curse because somebody doesn't like my curse, but like I rock with it. I'm like, bring it on. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I don't like when electeds, especially when you know electeds, and when they're all prim and proper in public and they're not themselves, and then when everyone's gone, they're like, "Hey, what's up?" It's like just be yourself. I think because people can't touch a governor the way they can touch their local electeds, you have to come off as authentic, and anything that's not authentic comes off as like whatever. I think you are skeptical of it because you're in this political,
Hmm.
like we're all a political
I'm
elite.
overly sensitive.
Yeah, like we're like, oh, I heard it all before. Oh, okay, like it's like if the leader ever took off her scarf, I'd be like, yeah, like get loose, Andrea. Like like I appreciated it, and like I don't know, like even like with congestion pricing when she was cussing, I like cussing Hochul, and I think. Like I wish she'd be like, Delgado's a clown. I like when she's like, next, who? Please, move
Yeah.
on. Like, because he's a non, I don't know if you ever watched Basketball Wives back in the day. That was a famous, she was like, you're a non beat, beat, beat factor. Like, you're not even like relevant to me. And that's what I want Hope to say about Delgado one day.
Do they use the expression wags on that show?
No, they,
Wives and girlfriends?
well, jump offs and baby mamas and wives and girlfriends. It was just a full array of different women. It was peak reality television back in the day, but
Okay.
you're probably too young for that.
Well, the second leg to that conspiracy theory from the right is that, in addition to the governor, state lawmakers, Democratic state lawmakers, are going to be looking over their shoulders all session long, trying to avoid primaries. And I think that's true in a handful of cases based on very specific districts, almost all in New York City. But I think for the most of these members, they know their districts, they're responsive to their districts, and they're going to fend off challenges from the DSA, who I also think are going to be calculated, or at least maybe more calculated than they've been in the past, about who they go after, as we've seen with the Zoran-led effort not to go after Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, I thought, I have had my criticisms of the minority leader. I feel like he's not resonating with the public. Whatever he's doing, I'm not feeling like he's fighting for me.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Chiose is brilliant in social media. And I think if we look back, he's probably one of the first to really get on that social media digital vibe. Like he's I don't want to say he's a pioneer, but he's like one of the originators.
In politics,
And I
yeah.
think yeah, in politics. And he does it very well. He had great legislation this year that not Tusk Strategies support, the broker fee bill, which passed and was a great bill. And I was shocked because if you look at the districts, like the DSA Army and the really like leftist, it's like the Republic of Brooklyn, like Park Slope, all of that. Like you have like the really woke, and then you have like the traditional Caribbean old school people that have been in Brooklyn for a long time. I always thought that I thought if the council member went against the minority leader, it'd be tough, but it wasn't like unfathomable that he couldn't win. I think if he had gotten DSA support, it'd been a tough race.
Mm-hmm.
So I think DSA being like, I don't want to get into that politics is interesting. I think DSA is going to be calculated in their races, and I think they know that they can't get too wild. But then I'm hearing that they are getting wild. Like in Queens, there's an issue like they're like Brian Romero
Mm-hmm.
is running for Assemblywoman JGR's race. And I don't know the DSA person, but there's a DSA person running against him.
But that's
And
an
like
open seat.
yeah, but there's a lot of like, like there's been a lot of discussion. I read a couple, I'm like on Twitter because like right now I'm just chilling. There was a discussion of like, well, Brian's been in the district doing the work. Who is this DSA person? And I don't know these people. Like I do know Brian, but I don't know these people. Like I know Brian through just being in
Mm-hmm.
Albany.
Yeah,
But I don't
everybody knows Brian if you're in Albany.
So there's been a discussion, like he's been doing the work, he's DSA adjacent. I don't know if he's 100, I don't know if he's DSA, but I think he's DSA adjacent. And a lot of people are saying there's going to be conflicts. There's another race in Queens. So it's just interesting, the races. Like, I think the going after the ESPO, that's an AOC person. That's not DSA. That's going after
Justice
ESPO.
Democrats.
Is that, well, educate the non-left.
I think there's some overlap with some of these players, but I don't know how much muscle is going to go behind the effort to take out Espaillat. I'm skeptical. It's like I've seen this movie before.
It all depends on who they attract. I think they'll be more calculated, but right now it seems like they have like an open tent and they're just like.
Well, do the incumbents then? Do they care? Do the incumbents care about these possible threats?
I think it depends on the type of incumbent you are. If you're a Latrice Walker, do you really care? Like, you got this. Someone like Kevin Parker, who constantly has primaries, he does care, and he does take them seriously. I just think it depends on the member. I think it depends on the district. It depends if, like, a lot of these districts are changing over time. Like Martin Delon, like when Julia Salazar got him, like the district had changed over time. And some of these people are just been incumbents that have been here for a while. And sometimes people just think there should be a change of blood.
Well, it sounds like you need that right recipe. You can't just be like, we don't like this person's politics. It needs to be, we don't like this person's politics, and they've been here for a long time, or and they were the wrong on a certain issue, or there's been some sort of demographic changes in the district that they're not keeping up with.
Or some people, like, let's just be honest, some people are like electeds and they don't work their districts. Like, they're there because of legacy or like last name recognition or something like that. But then, like, they don't do anything in the community, and the community rarely sees them. So I hate election year because people get crazy. Every vote is like a make or break. They're freaking psychos until petitioning.
But do you think it's safe to assume that it's only going to be a handful of members, so really just around the margins of a 100-plus member conference, if we're talking about the Assembly Democratic Conference, who are actually going to be worried about primaries, and that this is not going to be some issue for 100-plus Assembly Democrats?
10% will probably be worried about primaries.
So that's about 10 members.
And then there's going to be the regular people who have generals, like your suburban and your marginals, have to worry about that. And then there's just people that just been here forever and they just come in, get their check, and go.
For more than 100 years, the New York State Association of Counties has served as the united voice of New York's county leaders, fostering excellence in county government and advocating for sustainable funding and sensible legislation that protects local taxpayers and the essential services they rely on. Learn more at nysac.org. I'm going to take my conspiracy hat off now. So the last thing I want to talk about is the options that the governor appears to be weighing for her new number 2 in 2026, something she'll have to run as in the primary with her ticket for the first time as part of a new change from a law adopted this year in direct response to the Delgado independent streak. Treachery, some say. So Gothamist has written down the list of names that are being considered that have been floated around and are pretty widely known, and those are Robert Rodriguez, head of DASNY, Walter Mosley, Secretary of State in New York, Eric Gonzalez, the Brooklyn DA, and Assemblymember Brian Cunningham, a Brooklyn Democrat. Before we get into those 4 names, do you think, or do you assume that there are people who might have been on the list and have already either turned down the governor, or the governor knows, I can't get that person, so this is why I'm working with this list?
Yeah, and I don't even know if everybody on that list wants it. I heard Robert Rodriguez didn't want it, but I don't know if that's true.
He's just having too good of a time at DASNY?
Think life.
Sure, but he's been making the trail. He and Walter Mosley have both been hitting the hustings, have been making trips upstate that you maybe wouldn't necessarily expect.
You need someone with a real base.
Sure, but is that
you need someone with a real base?
Is that for real though? In the sense that people talk about, oh, you need to have that regional representation, you need to deliver XYZ vote. I don't think anybody is voting because of that.
I'm not talking like regional representation. Like, I just think you need people that can bring people to vote.
What LG has done that though?
But I think before it didn't matter because they weren't on the same, like they weren't Like
But it
for
was
like
it
the
was de facto running mate though. Hochul was the de facto
but
running
like
mate of Cuomo in
yeah,
2014.
but like now this is like real.
So you
Don't
think
they
in a
have to be?
primary it matters?
If I got that other person, I'm not gonna say names, but I got that other person walking around thinking that they can be the governor, wasting people's money and tax money,
Hmm.
traveling the state while they should be working. If I got that other person sitting here trying to be like, relevant, I do think it's important who you have. But in this race, because I think what is Delgado's at like what, 5%?
I think
For
it
what?
was in a heads-up matchup, like 50 something for Hochul and maybe like 16% for Delgado.
And that's a head to head. So
Hmm.
like, okay, he's at 16%. I don't know if he matters. Look, if I'm the governor, there's been a lot of talk about Hispanic representation because statewide there's no Hispanic representation. One would say, Robert Rodriguez, but people say Eric Gonzalez is probably the most well-known Hispanic elected official.
Yeah.
If I were to be the governor and I had to choose people, if I wanted to make sure I checked the Hispanic box, I would do Eric Gonzalez. Without a doubt. He's beloved in Brooklyn. He's a team player. He's a great person. Bah, 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 bah. I hear that Eric Gonzalez wants to be like Attorney General one day.
Well,
So
yeah.
I don't know if I want to be Lieutenant Governor. I
This
want to
would
be Attorney.
be a pretty good way to build up your statewide connections, not necessarily with voters, but with the Democratic Party more broadly, to ward off a primary in, say, 2030 if Letitia James isn't running again at that point, which I think is realistic.
I don't know. Members want autonomy. They want like, if I'm trying to run for something bigger, I want to be able to just be clear on what my positions are. And like maybe he doesn't agree with all the governor's positions. Like,
Sure.
next year she's like, I don't want to, well, I don't know, he's wishy-washy sometimes with his practices. Some days he's like, yeah, bail reform. Next day he's like, no, no bail reform. So he's wishy-washy. I think him, or I actually think I would say Brian Cunningham. But then Brian Cunningham is very ambitious. I don't know if she wants to deal with another ambitious lieutenant governor.
I also think he'd be a loyal lieutenant governor, though.
I think he'd be loyal, but he's ambitious. And then like you got to deal with like this always when you're the governor, you want to be the main star.
Hmm.
You like to have supporting acts. Like, I thought when Brian Benjamin was the governor's lieutenant governor, he was a good supporting act. He didn't want to be the main show. He knew what his role is. We're seeing with the current lieutenant governor, he doesn't know what his role is, and he just wants to be everything to everyone. It's all about fit too. If she comes off as like a little like rigid, maybe you want someone a little bit more loose and free, like it's trying to figure out the right balance.
Well, how about one of the borough presidents? Do you think any of them would make a good fit with the
Ugh,
governor?
my Jamaican massive, Donovan Richards.
Hmm.
I think he would be great, but you got to be careful. Even though I don't think the governor will lose her race, that is a possibility.
He doesn't lose anything, though. He's not
He
up for
doesn't
re-election
lose.
in
It's
2026.
association, though.
Oh, okay.
Once you're associated, and then it's just like, it's just, I left you, Queens, to go try to be lieutenant governor, and let's just say something happened. So I think if she does it, I think it's going to be either Eric Gonzalez or Brian Cunningham. I love Brian. Sometimes less is more, Brian. Like when I saw him doing that like post, he was with that girl, I forgot her name, the reporter, and it was like, oh, what's being talked about? I'll never tell. I was like, all right, y'all, close my close my thing.
Well, before the Zoom kicks us off,
You know what you're gonna say. Thank you. Give me my props.
I was just going to say thank you.
Oh
Oh,
no, I
oh,
thought you were gonna say
oh, you want?
congratulations.
Okay, well, we literally have 90 seconds. So,
In my head, my husband told me I was like, he was like, you have such a big head. You're so conceited sometimes. When the court decided, like, hey, we're not gonna mess around with this electrification
hmm
stuff.
when the Hochul
Lawsuit.
administration filed paperwork that says, sure, let's kick the can down the road. Sure.
I don't want to believe that like my ranting about the costs of building and how this was, I don't know, the best thought out legislation. I don't want to say it impacted the people, but I want to believe it impacted the people. If there's any other causes you all want me to be vocal about, just let me know.
Well, we've been speaking with Shontell Plummer. She is head of the New York practice at Tusk Strategies, where she is a partner and she is available to kill the implementation of laws at your request.
And I just want to say thank you for having me, because people have been like, oh, you haven't been on David Lombardo. And I was like, he got too big for me. He got too big.
Never the case.
We want to have other people on the
Never
show.
the case.
So,
thank you, Shontell.
mm-hmm. I'm on a text thread of very important people. Won't go into it, but like very important people in government